Happy today. I am William Brown from IamWilliamBrown.com. Welcome to Disconnect to Connect One Word Conversations. One Word Conversations is brought to you or sponsored by I Am William Brown, where you can find items and conversations about being yourself and living your life. We have everything from the Beyond the Shell book series. That it is two books of self discovery for kids and their caregivers. A companion pieces to that is the U cards that are intention setting cards, and there's also a U game associated with that. That is fun and impactful for families and within relationships. It also works with our U journal. That is, you can have a daily 15 minutes with you. And so, as I do, I use the U journals, U cards as a way to set the intention for the conversations that we have and tell you a little bit about them. They come in three sections, and the I am card, the you are card, and the quote card. So, my I am card says I am seen. So, I am seen. So, that is something to bring into this conversation. And you are enough. You are enough. And that's great. Sometimes that's a questionable thing for myself. I don't know about you. But the quote card for today and for this conversation is be you, the world will adjust. So, with my intentions set for this conversation, I will introduce the word. I introduce the word of acceptance. And for some of you to realize that this was a word that I had a solo episode on a number of weeks ago because our schedules kind of got the way they are. And we, had to reschedule our time with the guest that I have for today. But I decided to keep this word because there is so many ways that this word shows up for me and for a number of different people. And I just, even though I shared some of my thoughts during the time, I really want to explore this, with someone else and just kind of see if anything comes up. So, with that in mind, I would like to bring up my guest so we can have a conversation. Good morning.
Good morning, William. I want to play the you game.
Oh, that's great. It is fun. It really is, and I can explain it a little more after our conversation because it's one of those things that it's like I gotta stay on track or I'll just kind of go sideways here. So this is the time where I invite my guests to introduce themselves however it feels comfortable to them.
Yes, it's so wonderful to be here having this conversation on probably one of my favorite words. It's pretty much my purpose in life is helping people to accept their life the way it is, themselves the way it is. So I'm Tamara Green, a licensed certified social worker. I've been a psychotherapist now for coming up on 27 years. I'm a love and relationship expert, been doing that for just as long, coaching couples and individuals to not only love themselves, but love each other in a much more rich and beautiful way. And my passion project, my mission is with my husband, and it's called Loving Meditations after he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer and I became his caregiver.
Mm,
We created meditations and mindfulness programs to help anyone touched by cancer, whether they're caregivers, patients, survivors, even the ones that provide for them as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we have an app called Loving Meditations. It's now in about 44 countries around the globe. We're very excited about it. So that's our
Wow.
passion and mission.
Well, thank you. I will be sharing that, how people can connect with that later. But so the question of the day is, how does the word acceptance show up for you?
Just hearing you say the word makes me smile. Uh,
Hmm.
so acceptance is the opposite of resistance.
Hmm.
A deeper form of acceptance is surrender, but
Hmm.
acceptance is right there before surrender.
Wow.
And so, right under you is the word love, and right under me is the word fear, right? And
Well.
for years, I've been telling my clients that the source of every feeling, action, word, right,
Hmm.
is either coming from the source of love or it's coming from the source of fear.
Wow.
Acceptance is definitely one of the virtues or one of the energies listed under that source of energy of love.
Hmm.
Um, Carl Jung, you say it depends on who you're talking to on how you pronounce his name, but he
Right.
coined the phrase, what you resist persists.
Right. I've used
And
that. Right.
it will expand, it'll get bigger. So if you're not, let's, for example, if you're not accepting yourself, you're going to create a lot of evidence around you on how you're not very accepted, like you're not going to get that job or that relationship or those things that you actually desire,
Right.
because you're it's a form of resisting you, and the beautiful aspects of you, the gifts of you, and
Right.
also what's trying to be provided for you. The universe
Wow.
really does want us to have what we desire to have. That's where desires come from. So when
Wow.
we're in that energy of acceptance, that loving energy,
Right.
then it feels like magic what comes into our life. It's
Wow.
we're accepting it into our life as well.
I really appreciate that. I, I've used that. What you resist persists. I try to take that on and everything. But, just the way you shared it really lets me kind of get access to another level of acceptance, for myself. I mean, on this journey of, one first becoming aware of myself, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes we don't even have the awareness to get to love or acceptance, right?
right.
So in the awareness, then accept as much of myself as I possibly can. I use a phrase called an actionable awareness of myself, right? And so it is I know that there is more to me that I don't understand or appreciate or in some cases accept. But the more that I stay in action, what I'm aware with, it gives me access to more of me. Then
Yes.
I become larger within it. And so now I think really, because the way I look at acceptance is sometimes like there's like a negative connotation of not surrender, but like putting up with, right? It's like
Sacrificing
a
in a way.
a resignation that whatever, and there is just no power in that. And so I think that the acceptance that you're talking about, that is where the power is. That is really embracing the fullness, the wholeness, the what we say, good or bad of, basically expands us. It allows us to really I guess, do the opposite of resisting, right? In that
Absolutely.
expansion, we expand what we're trying to resist, instead of accepting,
Mhm.
and then expanding the love and the compassion and all that.
And I'm actually glad that you brought that up, William, because sometimes people do use the word acceptance with a negative connotation. And
Right,
if that's what it means to them, then that's what it is for them.
right,
Um, but as soon as I heard that that was going to be my word, I immediately went to, um, how many times in my career have I given a homework assignment to a client where, I want you to say that even though I feel desperate, I love and accept myself. Even though I feel worthless, I love and accept myself anyway. Even though
right,
I'm in this horrendous situation or challenge, I love and accept myself. And if they can't say
right,
that, then I'm open to loving and accepting myself. So
mm,
many, many, many times I've given that homework assignment, and it's opened up. It's transformed their life when they're really committed to it.
right,
Um, but you know, I, I'm one of those people. Ever since I was a little girl, I'm so tuned into the energy of things. I would be able
good,
to sit in a room and just observe, like my mother, for example, and I would be able to label the emotion, or sense the emotion she was feeling without ever opening her mouth. It was as if I was very tuned into the energy that was kind of there in the room or emanating from her. I would say, ooh,
wow,
she's a little depressed, or she's resisting something. Of course, I didn't have those words when I was a little girl, but as an
right,
adult, if you just really kind of be with the word acceptance, and you
right,
allow yourself to just notice where that lands in your body. Acceptance, acceptance, acceptance. There really is
right,
this energy to the word, and
right,
me personally, I feel the power behind the word.
right. Now, I totally get that. The one thing that was coming out when you were talking about how you were able to, I don't want to say read the room, but kind of, identify the energy.
Mhm.
Have there been times, because like I said, I'll speak for myself, that, in my relationship, in my marriage, my wife would notice that how I'm feeling, or the energies that I'm putting off, and I would like deny it, because it was like, I haven't dealt with this yet, so you don't get to, yeah, you don't just get to say it, right? Right, type of
How
thing.
dare you?
And yeah, and then it starts into, an intense fellowship or something, right? And it's like, all I had to do in that moment is just to accept the reality that I
Mhm.
was mad, or accept that, getting that acceptance, and then we could have worked through some things. And I find out that there have been times where we have those touching moments, or those times of connection, when there's not this resistance to, your partner, or your, picking up on things, but it's just like, yeah, I feel like crap today, and just kind
Yeah.
of just sit with that, and then be able to move from there.
And you do have to say it out loud, or not even out loud. Just acknowledge, you know what, I do feel like crap, or I'm pissed off, or I'm terrified, or whatever that
Right,
feeling is, because so many people are trying not to feel that, especially the real, spiritual seekers, or self-discovery. They're really in this journey, and I'm not supposed to feel upset, or and I'm like,
right,
no, you're human. Of course you're supposed to feel all the emotions. It's okay, but don't resist
right,
it. Just let it come to the surface. Like
right,
every emotion, it's just trying to leave your system. So go ahead and say, I'm pissed off, I'm mad, so that it
right,
surfaces and leaves.
right. Wow. It's, I have some theater background. And so one is, I don't know if you've ever done improv.
I have, I
And
love
I
it.
think I think I shared this on the show on Friday with Aaron, about, I think I've solved the problems that we have in the world is that, it's like within improv works when we accept reality and we build on to it. Then that's the only way that we can build on to it. But first, we have to accept what someone's just created.
Yeah.
And I think the traumas or the difficulties that we have in the world in our life is that we won't accept
Mhm.
reality, but we're trying to build on to something that we haven't even accepted. And it
That's so
doesn't work.
true.
It
That is
doesn't
so
work.
true. Absolutely. I love that.
And so
Yes,
it's so real. So it's like, hey, this is what it is, right? And
exactly.
from that, we're able to say, okay, I don't like this, or whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
Now I'm going to add to it.
Exactly.
And
Is it okay with you if I share my own personal example of this?
absolutely.
Okay. So 6 years ago, my husband, our son was diagnosed with Lyme disease. He was 13 at the
Wow.
time. And 4 days later, my husband was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. So
Wow.
that first few weeks, I was in complete resistance. I was
Wow.
kind of freaking out, not sleeping, had a lot of, you know, I'm not a worrier at all, never have been, but I was worried about my two guys and are we going to have a future together? What's going on? I was in the opposite of acceptance. I was in complete fear and
Right.
total resistance to what was actually going on, the reality of what was going on. My husband, too,
Right.
very much in resistance. And one day it hit me, what am I doing? If a client came to me and said, Tamara, I can't sleep. I'm terrified. I'm worried. What do you think I should do?
Right.
um, I would have said, this is all about acceptance, about where your life is exactly now and what's showing up now. Because I promise you, there will be a gift out of this. And it just like hit me like a ton of bricks in that moment.
Right.
And
Wow.
everything just completely switched from fear
Right.
into love. And then I became this presence. And I actually began to, um, I think, presence is a form of love as well. You're in a
Right.
completely unconditionally loving state when you're in presence. And
Right.
during that year, more than any year of my life, complete presence to everything. And
Right.
there's actually, even though it was the most challenging and heartbreaking time of my life, even though I can very happily say my husband is now cancer free, it
Right.
was
Wow.
very challenging, but the most beautiful year of my life.
Wow.
Really amazing.
Yeah. Hey, I no, thank you for sharing that. That is, I love those moments as a coach when I coach myself, right? It's like, it's
Right.
like, oh yeah, this is what I talk about. That'll
That's
work with me too, right?
right.
Right?
It's like walk on the
You
dog.
know, right? Those moments. But it is just really, is it? I guess here's a question that I have, and maybe you have the answer, and maybe this is something that is just I need inquiry on. Is that, is it like easy, to go into a place of fear and denial, is that just like the default button, right? Is
Mhm.
and so we have to really make a choice, make an intentional choice that I am going to be in a place of love and acceptance. Is that what it is, or have we just lost
It, yeah,
awareness of
it
that?
is. No, that's what it's a choice.
Mm,
It's interesting because probably most of the people on the planet actually come from a no, a perspective of no choice universe. Like they don't feel like they have
mm,
a choice in the matter. But
right,
but meanwhile, we're constantly making choices, whether they're from the source of love or from the source of fear. But yes, it's
right,
a choice to be in resistance or
mm,
acceptance. It's a choice,
right.
absolutely. And that
So
default
is
you were talking about, the
right,
default always, the easiest thing is, oh, let me even back it up even more. We
okay,
have the amygdala, right? It's the almond
okay,
shaped little glands on the right and left brain hemisphere, right? And
right,
it stores nothing but trauma memory.
mm,
So our default, fight, flight, freeze,
right,
uh, our default is always fear. It's going to be, it's for me, it was always confusion, like deer in the headlights,
right,
kind of freeze up. For others, it's
right,
anger, it's the
right,
sources, the virtues, I guess you would say, of fear. And
right,
the default usually is negative, and we spend hopefully with personal growth or self-discovery, we're now coming back to our original self as we came as children. We're
right,
not born negative.
right, right,
We just take on other people's, you know, um,
right. Their resistance, right?
their resistance, their fear, and then
Right,
we take it on as
right,
ours as well. And yeah, return to sender, send it back,
right.
and let me
It's
rediscover, you know, the joy and the love, the pure love that is me again.
right. It's a lot of things, and I can't remember what book I got this from because I've been reading. I was reading a lot of books, and then COVID-19 happened, and then I just got off of my reading schedule because it was really odd because I was like really doing well, but there was a lot of other things occupying my headspace. So even the books that I tried to read, it wasn't getting through, and I was like, okay, I'm just wasting time with this, so I'm just going to put it down. But there was one thing that it just came up. It was on this personal journey, this self discovery journey that I'm on. I've noticed that a lot of things that I don't like, or I've hid, or something that it was like at odds. It wasn't. I mean, the origin of it was a conversation that somebody else had. It was like it didn't come from me,
Mm.
It came from, my parents, it came from experience and all that other kind of stuff. There was this feeling that I'm like, okay, I'm looking in my backpack and I'm just like, yeah, I don't know where this came from. Who put this in here? Just take this stuff out and all, you're just kind of just letting go of all this stuff. And the more that I've been able to, own my stuff, but let other people's stuff go, the backpack, getting back on the journey is a lot lighter,
Mm.
and there is a lot more curiosity and acceptance of what I'm dealing with when I walk into and when I get into a situation that I would label as hard or difficult. I can show up as myself and not all the other things. I don't hear my mom, her story about the situation. I don't hear all that other kind of stuff, and it's just really really interesting. Is that it's like sometimes we've accepted other people's story and other people's stuff, and that causes trauma for us. I mean, we just kind of store it up in our and for ourselves and kind of use it when it's really not ours.
I'm even going to go out on the limb and say 99 to 100% of all the fear-based thoughts and feelings we've ever had did not
Hmm.
originate from us. And
Wow.
it just gets handed down from one generation to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next.
Wow.
And because if you go back to that pure, I mean, this is why babies are just so delicious. They're just unconditional love. They look at
Right.
you unabashedly. They have no problem speaking, crying if they need attention or whatever. There's no filter. They just are pure love, right? So
Right.
that's who we are. And it
Right.
never goes away, but we just are not so necessarily tuned in anymore
Right.
because we've had these years and years and years and years of soaking up other people's, perceptions and all of that.
Right.
So self-discovery is coming back to that pure love that you actually are. And it's
Right.
freeing.
Wow.
It's very,
Right. And right. And it's like the how difficult I have made it to just accept myself, right? To accept and love myself. It is just because, I don't know, because of other people, because of what other people said about, that. It's just even having a conversation about self seems like difficult to have. It's like there's so much happening in the world. Why should I, why am I worrying about self? And I have said before that only in emergency situations on an airplane we are encouraged to think of ourselves first so we can help other people.
isn't that
Yeah,
interesting?
right. Outside of an emergency and on an airplane, people question, why we're thinking about ourselves, right?
Right.
And it just kind of goes from there. And so I want to accept a reality that I can be love, not just love other people and love myself, but I'm just love.
Yeah.
And that it feels easy. It feels like that would be, an ideal place. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, that would be a difficult way to show up all the time. Show up in, you know, business meetings or all that other, all the other kind of stuff that we do.
Right.
That I mean, it's just there's sometimes when I'm talking to my clients and, the love comes out, it's like, okay, is that appropriate in this setting to say that, I really love spending our, our time? And it's just like, yeah, that's what's coming up right now. When you see people through transformation, love just comes up and that's just the word. But there's a part of me that finds it hard to accept that, you know, that the pureness of really helping people through transformation or just kind of just helping them see themselves more, it's still, like I said, I don't know if it's the trauma still talking again or something, but
Could
it's just
be.
there's still a level of resistance to that.
I actually have a question for you then, because now I'm very
Okay.
curious. Do you
Okay.
think, William, that is it more difficult for men? Is it a gender? I mean, I know it's difficult for some women too, but
Right.
do you think that that plays into it as well?
I think that I try, I have the conversation around labels, right? That
Yeah.
we are our labels and we're not our labels. So
Yeah.
in the male label and the identity of that and the what I believe the expectations, I think there is, okay, guys don't talk like that. guys don't say, delicious, right? Or beautiful. It's like, what? I mean, it's like,
Right,
it's
right.
like, it's just stuff like that. But I know beyond my guy label, delicious is appropriate sometimes, and I'm okay with, and I don't get, and I don't beat myself up and hide in a corner, and because it's like, oh, geez, right, but
Right.
so I do think that there are those moments when I find it difficult. I have to identify for myself what label or who is finding difficulty in that. And sometimes it is like very clear. It's like, okay, the guy label is like here, here, or something, or just kind of just making sure, because I want to make sure that I'm communicating with I guess with the right label. And so it's kind of to go back to why I ask my guests to introduce themselves. Is I ask my guests to introduce themselves because I want them to let me know what label I'm talking to,
Ha ha ha. Yeah.
what how they see themselves, and who they're bringing to the conversation. Because too often when I have challenges with my wife, is sometimes my wife will be trying to talk to the husband label, and my listening is the entrepreneur. It's there's somebody else that's in the room, until she says, "Hey, I want to speak to my husband." Then we have to like Russ, we have to, "Hey, husband, you need it, right?" And then I'm here, right? And then I can talk, and and it sounds funny, but too often I can be like listening, but I have no listening, because the label that she wants to talk to is not present. It's like I'm just not. It's
Anyone home?
right.
Hello.
It's like, okay, well, where's the husband guy? Where's he at, right?
I miss him.
But right, it's that type of thing, and so the more that I am able to know not just who's speaking, how I see myself, but who's listening, then I can communicate on a level that makes sense, and that I don't get,
Yeah.
I don't know, kind of confused, or misunderstanding. So
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty fascinating when you look into the science between brain science between male brain and female brain. So in the male brain, what you just said makes so much sense. There's it actually the research shows that there's compartments in male's brain. Well, I'm in work
right,
mode right now. I'm very
right,
focused on work. Oh,
right,
sex mode. I'm very focused on that.
right,
Relationship mode, father, whatever, right? And
right,
oops, sorry about that. Sometimes it's hard to shift out of one and go into another. It's like
right,
there's no transition, right? Us women,
right,
our brains, it's everything's firing off all at once. It's like one big mush cream pie going on all at the same time.
right,
So I'm working, but at the same time I'm focused on, does anyone need me for anything? Like I'm intuiting if somebody's going to need me, or as a mom, as a wife, one of my
right,
clients. I'm just kind of, and women will agree with me on this because I hear it all the time from my male
right,
and my female clients. Yeah, that's kind of how it is, generally
right,
speaking. So so yeah, I see what you're saying in terms of like, wait a minute, am I in the husband drawer right now? Am I in the
right, right,
entrepreneur drawer? Or like, what compartment am I listening from or operating from right now?
right. I lovingly tell my wife that she has a beautiful mind, because we're trying to have a conversation with each other, and it's like I have no idea what label is talking right now. It's like, I want to, I really do,
You may be
maybe just
creating a new
right.
label.
right, it's like, and it's just like it just really staying that. But the more that I accept it, I accept that reality
Yeah.
that there's um, lot of people showing up to this conversation, the better my life is. Right? That's how we can
Yes.
put 29 years in, right?
Exactly. And then 29 more.
Right, right. So it's great.
I every once in a while, being something comes in and I guess I'm supposed to talk about that. To me, sometimes it
Okay,
just feels like I get a hit on something, and it may
right.
sound like it's coming from left field, but I'm going to say it. So
Okay,
I've, throughout the years on and off, have been very curious and interested in, I would say mild studying of the Kabbalah. And
okay,
at one point I read, and I was fascinated by this, that the male, um, in a unit like a couple in a family, the male from a very deeply spiritual perspective is
okay.
piping in, no pun intended, piping in the love of God, the energy of God into
Hmm.
to his partner, to the family. That's his
Right,
whole purpose and mission, is to, direct it, pipe it in, right? And the
wow,
woman's job, the partner's job, is to manage that energy, right?
wow. Hmm.
And I'm not even sure why. I feel like it just kind of came in like a download to talk about it. uh, but if a male and a female, if we get back to our beautiful word of acceptance,
Right,
if because I kind of think what's happened, so many people don't reach 29 years of marriage, and for me it's 26 years of marriage. They don't, because they don't accept these really kind of basic core, I don't know, that not values, maybe purpose of who
right,
we are in a relationship. And
right.
that's to
Wow,
for women to accept, receive, right?
right. And then
And
manage, right?
and then manage. And for a man to
Wow.
just, you know, I'm not sure. Let's talk about it, because I'm
Right.
not even sure what all this
Yeah.
means.
Yeah. I mean, no, I totally get it. I
Yeah.
think that there is, because I've seen for myself, and and over the years, that because I wasn't present, and you mentioned that before, of that being a gift. Giving someone your presence is a gift. Because I wasn't present, because I was operating in my roles. It was like I was checking in. I was checking in as husband. I was checking in as worker. I was checking in as dad. I was doing all these things, but I really wasn't present to. And so when I would hear something, my you know piping in was just, I'm just going to fix everything. I am going to say something to fix this, so we can get back to the regularly scheduled program here, right? So everybody can get
Right.
on. And really, then leaving my wife to manage all of that. And then I'm just wondering why this isn't taken care of. I fixed this yesterday, right? Right? I mean, because I did it. And so really, there's what I'm getting is that there is this acceptance on both parts, in a sense that I accept the reality that I can create in the energy, right? But I don't want to overwhelm it. I don't
Yeah.
want to just as we say. I love when you have trainers or facilitators like, oh, I'm gonna open a fire hydrant and kind of it's like, real, don't do that. Right?
No.
But they just continue to do that and expect you to get it, and kind of your head is spinning and all that other kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't want to be able, I don't want to bring to my relationship, to my work, to my family, this overwhelming, empowering, type of thing that it's hard for people to manage.
Yes.
or to accept. And so that's then there's the resistance, and then all the other things, and then we have to talk to you to kind of get everything kind of you know fixed.
Exactly.
It's like, right, type of thing. But I totally get that. It's almost like I felt I was doing my job too well, right? I was trying to like overdoing it, right? So, if I do some extra work here, I don't have to do any work for like a couple days or something, right? Or
Oh,
something, right? Right?
so that's what my
Yeah.
husband's been thinking this whole time. I get it
Right.
now.
Right. So,
Now that makes sense.
right. So, but all I'm doing is overwhelming the situation, and it's and part of it, and the extra, right, is like resistant, right? Right? And so I wonder why. Hey, I put some extra work in here. Where did that go? Right?
Yeah, what's the problem here?
Right. It's gone nowhere. But yeah, there is that acceptance on both sides, or this is an agreement, right? And more that we have that agreement, and then we can create from that, and then there's management that comes. And I think, wow, I think that is, I'm sure, my wife is watching, and I'm sure this is going to lead to some other conversations after the show, right? Right. It's
Absolutely.
like, right.
She's like, ooh,
It's
this is
like,
juicy stuff.
right. So, but yeah, it is really something that I got for myself, that it is, the acceptance is love, right? It's in the place of love, and because of my acceptance, it's like, I can't remember if it's right before or right after surrender. Um,
It's right
that
before surrender. Surrender is a
right,
deeper form of acceptance.
right, and so it causes, it it creates the space for creation, for things to happen. And so yeah, and I think the more that I look for those opportunities to accept, the more love will show up in my life. Well, that's what I got, right? Right. So,
And that's powerful. That's
right.
powerful.
I mean, we could talk about this for hours. I'm sure. I'm sure. People are taking notes now, right? But is there
Absolutely.
anything that you got from this conversation that you just want to, I guess, leave us with, or just kind of reinforce?
You know, it's surprising me that I'm going to be saying this, but I'm going to say this. I really see how relationships, especially the very deep relationships like one you have with your partner, your romantic partner, it's sacred. And
Mm,
and what's sacred is about these relationships is this is how we actually discover, or we have the opportunity to discover who we really are once again, because
wow.
we kind of not tune in, and then we come back to ourselves, and so many people blame the other person if they're not whatever, agreeing with them or whatever it happens to be. But if you just accept them for them
Right.
and accept you for you, and then just use this relationship as a beautiful opportunity to explore each other, the other person, and yourself. Can you imagine what the world would look like then?
I know.
It,
Wow.
and what you said before is, the way we do change the world is, internally, one person at a time.
Right.
We have to accept ourselves to create inner peace, and therefore that is then what creates peace
Right.
among the entire human race. So
Right.
that sacredness of relationship, and I'm including relationships with yourself. It's just so sacred. There really
Right.
isn't anything else that just quite gets you to all those different points of despair or upset, anger or love, it's
Right.
those really deep, powerful relationships that really can transform us if we allow it to.
Yeah. Wow. No, I totally get that. No, I have your yeah, your website up. Is there anything in particular that people could be looking for that's available to them there,
Oh, there's
to
many
help them
things.
out?
We have access to our Loving Meditations app, the book that my husband and I wrote together after our cancer experience. But the thing that we're both very excited about is that we have a Facebook live meditation concert series coming up starting Tuesday, July 7th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And with so much stress and depression and anxiety in this world right now, we just wanted to create these events on Facebook Live that just create some hope or inspiration or peace or ease. So we're going to have, like on Tuesday, we're going to have a an amazing flutist. She's world renowned, and then
Oh wow.
I'm going to be reading poetry from a cancer patient and from a cancer caregiver. So it's just going to be very sweet, touching, tranquil, and we're very
Right.
excited about it.
Wow. Well, thank you very much for sharing that, and we'll kind of put that in the comments too to get people access to you, and just just showing up today.
Mm,
I really appreciate this conversation. I
me
think
too.
the one thing that I am still learning, the power of conversation. And
Uh,
it's like, even you think, some people think, one word, how can you talk just about one word? But as we know, that one words don't just come with the definitions, right? They come with
Absolutely.
stories, they come with
Mm,
emotions, they come with a lot of other things. And there's a lot of other things that connect us to create those stories. And so
yeah.
I'm grateful that you were able to share that with me.
Mm.
So
And I accept your gratitude. and I
uh,
and I'm so happy that I accepted your invitation to be
right,
having this wonderful conversation, William. Thank you so
right.
much.
Well, thank you. We'll say our goodbyes from the green room, but yeah, this has definitely been great, and I'm so glad that you were able to do it.
Thank you so
Wow, acceptance gives us access to love. I think as I started this conversation, there was the negative side of acceptance, and I think it's we still has I still have it. It's still a part of that, but I know the access that I have to love, and not just reality, but what is showing up, and then from what is showing up in my life, or what I am aware of, and what I accept, then I'm able to build onto. I I really would love to hear some of your comments on how acceptance is showing up for you, and I pray that this conversation that we had really provided value to you. If you'd like to have a conversation like this, you can go to imwilliambrown.com and schedule some time and have an introductory coaching session where we can just see if you're being yourself, if you're living your life, because this self-discovery journey is sometimes painful and difficult, but it is worth it, because the world wants you, the world needs you, and the world is waiting for you. So go be you. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow.